Christmas is supposed to be a season of love, family, and warmth, but for me, it turned into the coldest moment of my life. Out of nowhere, my dad texted me just 5 days before Christmas, saying, "Christmas is better without you." The sting of those words burned deeper than any icy winter night. I didn't scream, I didn't beg, I didn't even argue. Instead, I typed a single word. A word so sharp and unexpected that within days, their lawyer was reaching out to me. And that's when everything changed. Growing up, my relationship with my dad was never what you'd call normal. While other kids ran into their father's arms after school, I learned early on to keep my distance. He had a way of twisting words, turning even the smallest mistake into proof that I wasn't good enough. My siblings, especially the ones who mirrored his personality, were his golden children. He showered them with praise, bought them gifts, and made sure everyone knew how proud he was of them. With me, it was different. I was either invisible or the target of his disappointment. Family gatherings turned into a stage where he highlighted my flaws in front of relatives, almost as if humiliating me was his favorite pastime. Birthdays, holidays, milestones, those were chances for him to remind me of my place, and that place was always beneath the rest. The years of favoritism carved a silent wall between us, and abandonment came not just in his actions but in his absence of care. Still, somewhere inside me, I carried a small hope that maybe one day he'd treat me like I mattered. That's why, when his text landed on my phone, "Christmas is better without you," the words didn't just hurt. They shattered the last fragile thread of hope I'd been holding on to. It was late evening when the message came through, the kind of quiet night where the world outside feels wrapped in holiday magic, twinkling lights glowing in the neighborhood, carols faintly drifting from a neighbor's window. My phone buzzed, and when I saw his name flash across the screen, I hesitated. A part of me still wanted to believe maybe this time would be different, maybe he'd surprise me with even the smallest gesture of kindness. But when I opened it, all I saw were 6 words that sliced through me like a blade: "Christmas is better without you." For a moment, I just stared at the screen, numb. My chest tightened, my hands shook, and it felt like every ounce of warmth in the room had vanished. Anger rose quickly. How dare he? Pain followed even faster. Why was I never enough? I wanted to fire back, to spill every thought I'd swallowed over the years, but something stopped me. I knew that giving him an outburst would only fuel his twisted satisfaction. Instead, I took a breath, wiped the tears from my cheeks, and decided this time my response would be different. Careful. Calculated. And powerful enough to make him regret pressing send. I sat there, staring at the screen, my heart pounding as if it wanted to leap out of my chest. I could have typed 100 things, every insult, every truth he refused to hear, but none of them felt right. Then, a single word formed in my mind, sharp and undeniable. My thumb hovered for only a second before I typed it out: "Will." Just 4 letters, but heavy enough to tip the balance of power in an instant. My dad had always used money and inheritance as tools of control, dangling them like carrots while reminding me that he could take everything away if I didn't fall in line. He believed fear of being cut off would keep me silent. That night, I made it clear with one word that I wasn't afraid, and that I knew more than he realized. Will wasn't just a response, it was a threat wrapped in simplicity. It told him I knew about the documents he thought I couldn't touch, that I was ready to fight back, and that the law was on my side now. For the first time, he couldn't twist my words or dismiss me. That single reply flipped the control he'd held for years and placed it squarely back in my hands. After I hit send, the silence was deafening. No 3 dots appeared, no immediate outburst, no angry phone call exploding through the quiet of the night. Just silence. Hours slipped by, then a full day, and still, nothing. At first, I wondered if he was ignoring me, pretending my message hadn't pierced his armor. But deep down, I knew him too well. Silence from my father was never peace, it was calculation. He was stewing, running through possibilities, trying to figure out how much I actually knew. Every time my phone buzzed, my chest tightened, expecting him to lash out. But instead, the world stayed eerily calm, until the third day. That's when an unfamiliar number lit up my screen. On the other end was a polished voice introducing himself as my father's lawyer. My breath caught as he mentioned recent communications and family estate matters, his tone carefully measured, like every syllable had been rehearsed. I leaned against the wall, my pulse racing. My one-word reply had struck exactly where I'd aimed, right at the heart of his carefully guarded secrets. Suddenly, it wasn't just a cruel holiday text anymore. My father's silence, followed by this unexpected call, meant something much bigger was at play. I didn't know the full story yet, but I knew one thing for certain: my message had forced his hand, and whatever he had tried to bury was about to come crawling into the light. The lawyer's carefully chosen words began to unravel the truth I had always suspected but never fully proven. My father hadn't just been cruel with his emotions, he'd been quietly maneuvering to erase me from everything that legally tied me to the family. The house my grandparents left behind, the land that had been in our name for generations, even the savings accounts meant to support all of us, he had been working to cut me out completely. In his eyes, inheritance wasn't about legacy, it was a weapon, a way to remind me I was disposable. But my reply, Will, had cornered him. It told him I knew about his little schemes, and now his lawyer had no choice but to reach out before I dug deeper on my own. That single word had forced everything into the open, turning his backroom manipulation into a legal matter that couldn't be ignored. For years, he'd relied on the assumption that I would never challenge him, that I would keep swallowing the insults and accept scraps of recognition. Instead, he was suddenly facing the possibility of a courtroom, of his reputation being dragged into the light, and of me standing across from him with proof of his betrayal. The drama wasn't just about money anymore, it was about power, and for once, he wasn't the one holding it. The tables turned faster than my father could have imagined. What he thought would be a clean erasure of my name from the family legacy became a public unraveling of his lies. The lawyer's involvement opened doors I never would have accessed otherwise: documents, records, and clauses in the will that proved he had tried to manipulate everything in his favor. When I pushed back, not with anger but with quiet persistence and evidence, the balance shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't me standing on the outside anymore, it was him. Legally, he was forced to concede ground. Portions of the estate he'd tried to funnel away were frozen, and my rights were recognized in black and white clarity. Socially, whispers began to spread. Relatives who had once turned a blind eye to his cruelty now saw the truth exposed, and the man who prided himself on control looked smaller with every revelation. Even financially, his schemes crumbled. He had to pay fees, settlements, and legal costs that ate away at the wealth he guarded so jealously. And for the first time, regret flickered across his face. Not the kind that comes from love, but the bitter taste of losing to someone he thought was powerless. His cruelty had backfired spectacularly, and I stood there not as the outcast he painted me to be, but as the one who finally, undeniably, won. Looking back, I realized the hardest part wasn't uncovering the lies or even standing my ground in the legal mess that followed. The hardest part was holding back that first night, choosing not to pour years of anger and heartbreak into a message he would twist and use against me. Resisting that urge took more strength than any courtroom battle. In the end, it was restraint, not rage, that gave me the upper hand. That one word, Will, wasn't just about inheritance. It was about reclaiming the power he'd stolen from me for years, proving I didn't need to shout to be heard. I had finally broken free from his control, not by matching his cruelty, but by outsmarting it. And in doing so, I gained something far more valuable than money or property: closure. For the first time, I walked away not as his victim, but as someone who had truly won. In the end, one text from my dad tried to ruin me, but one word from me ruined his plans instead. Christmas didn't turn out the way he expected, it turned out better. I didn't just win legally, I reclaimed my power. Sometimes, revenge doesn't need to be loud or cruel. Sometimes, all it takes is patience, strength, and the courage to say less. Because the right word, at the right time, can cut deeper than any insult. And that's exactly what happened here.